But actually, there's just so you know, there's always been this urban myth that it's illegal. The health department won't let you get food. But actually, God bless America, I was at the White House when Bill Clinton signed the Food Donor Act of Bill Emerson Act in 1996, which in effect shields any donor from liability who gives in good faith. So what you have is a huge amount of food thrown away every day, more than enough to feed just about everybody who's hungry in America.
How long do they hold on to lettuce? Do you know? I don't even know. No, I mean, in a grocery store, the lettuce that's out there, when do they throw that away? I don't know.
It varies, but again, you got to go back to that cosmetic. Cosmetic is the driver of food. We want perfect food. So anything that isn't perfect, or frankly, if you think about in LA, you not only have the food coming in from the Central Valley, but you have all of the produce companies within. You have the port. I mean, if stuff is overripe, underripe, cosmetically, geometrically irregular, it gets thrown away. So it's a bonanza for somebody like me who's coming along saying, look, I'll either give you a tax deduction and take it from you, or we'll actually buy it 5 cents on the dollar, which allows us to do the kind of business we want to do to be able to employ graduates of the training program. But I won't go too far into that.
One of my other questions is, everything you do may be great, but the palate a child has at home will be different than the palate. So when the child comes to school and has food from the garden or healthy food with low salt, low sugar, it is inedible. It is tasteless to them. How do you go about?
Whoa.
No. If you're at home having mac and cheese and juice.
Well, okay. First of all, it takes a child 10 to 12 times, maybe 14 times of tasting something to decide that, for the palate to say they like it, right? It's like riding a bicycle. How many times were you put on that bike and you fell, right? Over and over and over again. And we have to do the same thing when we're teaching kids. We have to teach them how to eat, right? But I think part of the problem is parents give up like that now. Yeah. They give up quickly. And also, they're eating food that is over palatable. Right?
Exactly. That's
salt,
what I mean.
sugar, fat, and the combination. And Michael Moss has an amazing book about this. And the chemistry, the way processed food is chemically created purposely to, by the way, not too strong a word, addict you. Okay, I mean that's not too strong a word. That is what the food does. It's addictive, and they have all kinds of great tests now where they've used rats, and the rats have proven the food is addictive. They'd rather have that, the sugar, than cocaine. So, children are immediately, they're eating this stuff, which is super palatable, and they're not being given taste over and over and over again by the parents. And I think that's a big part of the problem.
Yes, I think that is a big part.
But I think it is somewhat easily resolvable. Because I think the first question is, why do parents not eat at home anyway, in the way that they did prior? Right. And I think the younger generations just didn't grow up with parents cooking at home because they were working or they were defrosting the pizza. Right. So I think one way of getting us back into the good mode is actually teaching children as well as parents food literacy and cooking skills. So I think that is one core focus area. Yeah. The second one is to think through the time. Time is probably the most precious resource these days for our society. So how can, for example, technology help individuals with that? And I think over the years to come, technology will help us significantly more than it does today with helping with your shopping list, with creating your meals, and doing everything that we don't even think of as of today. I think that's the second element we need to address. And the third one is really to think through product availability. So there are parts, and we are in a very blessed state, as I would say, over here in California, where we have such great food available to part of those of us who live in California. And I think as a society, we have to think through of how can we make the right food, great produce, great fruit, the right meat available to those who have less to spend on food. But if you think about how can we get families to cook again, cooking skills, food literacy, what does a tomato actually look like and where does it come from? Think about how we can help individuals with the time issue, and then what can we do as a society with product availability. Those are three elements that I think are relatively easy to rally around.
And in addition to that, I would add the family dinner.
Absolutely.
And getting back to the importance of sitting down and eating with your kids. And we've lost that priority. The schools have usurped that priority because schools now program practice. I mean, in the old days, you'd come home from school, you'd get on a school bus, you'd be home at 5:30 for dinner. Now kids have practice from, 5:30 to 8. Then they're coming home. Then they're eating something. Then they're doing home. So, the importance of how we're eating and where we're eating it is a huge part of this as well.